There is a fifth dimension.
A dimension of sound.
Damn it, Frank! We tell him to be quiet. I spilled my hot cup of Uranus again.
A dimension of sight.
Hey, Arch. I'm gonna sock you in the puss.
A dimension of mind.
Nan Adams, is that you?
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. I am your host, Nick, as always, and we're here to talk the Twilight Zone, Rod Serling's famous TV series. But we're doing it a little bit different today, like we talked about in the last episode. We are going to discuss the first season, do a little bit of different topics and things, you know, to have a little bit of fun this time around instead of our usual nonsensical weirdness that we usually get into. But I am Nick, your host. Like I said, as always, we are on audio feeds like audio. It's not, I keep saying audio boom. It's Anchor and Google Play and iTunes and all that stuff, and Amazon Music. It's been an interesting first season, to be fairly honest, but as we always do, as I always do, I'll introduce my co-host. Of course, perchance the dream of this podcast is, of course, Jacob from Jacob Anders Reviews, because you know he loves that episode very, very much.
Yep.
How you doing, Jacob? In his purple
I'm doing
rain
good.
shirt.
Yeah, my purple rain shirt.
You should be calling him the Purple Testament of our crew since he's, Purple Rain.
I missed that. Damn it, Trev. You need to correct me on these things way before you need to say it like in the pre-meeting.
How am I supposed to know it when you don't say it until like 30 seconds before I say it?
I thought you were omnipotent.
Are you kidding? Have you met me?
Geez.
I'm an avatar, Jim, not a doctor.
But yeah, I'm good. I'm excited to talk about whatever we're going to talk about about the Twilight Zone season 1 that we've completed,
Which is crazy.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's funny, like going back and like editing that because I forgot about everything we talked about except for the whole Top Gun thing. But it's it's been a long 2 weeks to say the least. But the other,
oddly enough, the funny thing is I think if I remember correctly, we were talking about Top Gun because you had seen it that early. And I was like, this will be out after I've seen Top Gun. When I was saying that next review I have, not knowing what the hell that would be, it was Top Gun.
Hey, there you go. Nice. You just need to do that from now on.
That was the most recent review at the time of dropping that was Top Gun. I think. What did it? I'm pretty sure.
The next one's going to be Red Sonja.
Exactly. That's the next prediction.
That'll be at the end of season 2. That's when I'll have my Red Sonja review done.
Oh man! And speaking of the laughter you hear, that of course is the woman who has an escape clause to get the hell out if she deems necessary, and that of course is Trivial Theater, who has not presented. Actually, I took it out of the last episode, but you had talked about you were going to do the Looney Tunes back in action as your next video. I'm like, I should probably take that out of the episode. I'm pretty sure that's not coming in the day that this posts,
No, definitely not. It got pushed back a bit because opening skit things I didn't feel was appropriate given what had happened in real life at that point in time. So
yeah, and plus we wanted to hear about you trolling people, so
well, that's more like being trolled, but that's okay. Or straight up just troll.
Exactly.
Oh my god. Anyway.
So anyway,
I've never seen that movie. I watched your review. I'm sorry. I watched your review of it.
No,
today.
yeah, you're good.
I swear have seen that, but I was looking at it and I was like, I don't think I've seen this movie, but I think I need to see this movie.
Oh,
like the troll looked really familiar, and there were aspects of it I was like, that's somewhat familiar, but overall, this movie is very foreign to me. So maybe I need to watch that one.
And it does have a lot of a Garbage Pail Kid-esque things in it.
Yeah.
So there's like the portrait thing going into the basement and all that stuff. And I mean, the troll does look, I think it was a common, not that I don't think the makeup was replicated, but there's a lot of troll and elf creatures that kind of have that same look in the 80s. So.
Oh yeah.
He looks a little bit like he looks a little bit like the little creature, the one in Labyrinth.
Oh yeah, that's what it would have been from. I was trying to remember, and that makes sense.
I can't remember his name. The little lackey bad guy who the main troll goblin, whatever he was.
Yeah, he was peeing.
Well, and even the like, was it the card like the Batchkey Lord of the Rings, Ray Bashki? No, what the hell
Oh,
is his last
wait.
name?
Ralph
I wasn't
Bakshi.
Ralph Bashki. Yeah, his
was thinking of
Lord of the
Legend.
Rings. Legend, really?
Yeah, when you said Labyrinth, that for some reason how I got Labyrinth and Legend confused. I don't know, but yeah,
You've been on
I know
Tom
what
Cruise
you're talking
kick,
about.
haven't you?
Yeah, it's Tom Cruise is on the mind. But no, I was thinking of Legend, the main bad troll guy, goblin had like the long nose. And I think it's the nose. The nose did it for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
The only good thing that came out of Labyrinth is sexy Tim Curry. You know,
Oh, Labyrinth isn't
that's
that
playing
bad.
the devil. No,
You mean
I
Oh,
see
Legend. Yeah, no, definitely.
That sentence started and we were about to fight when you said the only good thing that came out of Labyrinth. I was like, the whole thing? Say something else, motherfucker. I dare you.
I meant
I
Legend.
double
Say
dog
it
dare you.
again. Say it again.
You do
Well, no,
not
the
remind
only-
me of the babe right now.
The babe with the power. No, the
Power
only
of the
good
power
thing
of
that came
food.
out of the only thing good thing that came out of Labyrinth is David Bowie's codpiece.
Well, and his ability
is
to
not the
juggle
only
his
good
own
thing.
balls.
That may be the best thing, but it wasn't the only thing.
Jennifer Connelly was pretty awesome in that too.
I didn't.
This
Yeah,
is-
she was great too. But I mean, that
Oh, yeah.
that cod piece.
I mean, oh well, that goes without saying. I mean, if you remember nothing else from that movie, that's what you remember.
It's mesmerizing.
Oh, it is.
No.
That and his
Amazing.
ball juggling. I mean, damn.
Superior ball juggling.
Oh yeah.
That's right. Some great ball
That's it.
juggling.
I mean, it actually was handily done by someone else. So
That was doing a reach around from behind. There literally was someone behind him reaching around to juggle his balls. Yeah, that's a thing.
It is.
Yeah.
Look it up. Google that shit, kids.
Okay,
Fushigi
so
balls.
see, I told you we'd find something interesting to talk about in this episode.
Not the Twilight
You're
Zone.
all-
Yeah.
I know.
We're not even started yet. Who knows what other tangents we'll go off on?
Oh, I'm just waiting.
Oh, hell
So
yeah.
anyways, so we just wrapped up the first season of the Twilight Zone, and to say the least, I think it was a season that actually brought out a lot of interesting dialogue about concepts and ideas, and the things that Rod Serling was thinking about that is actually somewhat relevant to today's society. But I mean, I guess we can just kind of delve into the first season and just talk about like what the season did, how it operated, and what you guys thought about it overall. Because I'm pretty sure like I said, we had mixed feelings on some episodes. We loved some episodes. We actually came up with a really cool concept as it kind of became a natural thing, even though we didn't talk about it in the last couple episodes, which was of course Nan Adams, which if you had told me when we first started this podcast that we'd be on this Nan Adams journey, I would have told you you're fucking crazy. And then I think it's been an interesting season just to come up with that stuff. And on top of that, when I first started, when I asked Trip to do this, she's like, yeah, cool. And then I never thought about, I should have asked Jacob, at the time, which I don't know if I knew you as well, Jacob, when we first started doing this, but you came along in like the 11th episode. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and here we are getting right headed to the second season, which is I think just as long as the first season. It has, I think, even better episodes. But yeah, what did you guys think overall of like the first season? Like anything that surprised you, anything that you were thought maybe was overrated? Like what did you guys think overall?
I mean, this going back and rewatching all these, because I'd never watched Twilight Zone in order. It was always, whatever marathons came up on Sci-Fi or whatever it was, and to sit down and we've talked about it several times, sitting down and looking at them critically as compared to just kind of as a passive viewer. It was much different experience than what I expected. I mean, reviewing a movie and kind of taking it in that journey, I feel like I do that regardless, but I've never done that with a TV show the way I've done it with this. And yeah, it's been a hell of a journey. Just to the discussions that we've had, as goofy as they can go, they do ultimately come back to so much of the deeper meanings and the things that still hold true after 60 odd years. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
That I like how, while it can be not frustrating, but just kind of like sometimes we have to like kind of curb our opinions on some things as we look at it. We're looking at this show from the 60s, the very early 60s, from the perspective of 2021, 2022. And some of the things that just hit differently, even if I don't wish that they did, but they do. It pops things that pop into our mind. So, there's been those moments when we've had to be like, oh, this is, that's not okay, or this thing or that thing. But then we're like, yeah, but it wasn't like that. I mean, you look at it like that today, yeah, but then that meaning wasn't there. That's not what they were shooting for. They weren't trying to be whatever it is that we're looking at from that mentality. They weren't trying to be like negative or condescending or talk down to anybody with this particular thing. I don't have an episode in mind specifically, but there's been a lot of times I think we've said something along the lines of, we're looking at this from a modern standpoint when that's not how they were looking at it when they made it. So that's been really interesting. And like Triv said, how we've gone into some of these episodes, I'll watch them, and I think as we've gone along, or as I've gone along since I joined, and like I do this more myself before we actually get into it, but even now every episode will come in, we'll start talking, I will think, oh, this is the most basic, straightforward, simple episode there is, like The Mighty Casey. It's a comedy episode, but we always seem to find all those. We go deep, balls deep, and I appreciate that. I mean, there are things about these episodes that I just never would have thought of until we get on here and have this dialogue about it. And while some of it may be from a modern standpoint, it's just things we're like picking apart, which is what I've enjoyed about it. I don't always like to pick everything apart, but I've enjoyed like coming on here and looking at all the nuance of some of these episodes and some of the possible undertones and things like that. That's what I've liked the most, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I look at like episodes like Nightmare as a Child, and I mean, for all of the back and forth we talked about, and both the stated and unstated messages, like the discussion on that turned, I think, probably one of the most serious. Just as far as it did go that way for Purple Testament and some of the others, but I don't feel like it went as deep as what it did with that, or that level of seriousness.
That was a dark episode.
Yeah. And then on the other end, you've got Mr. Beavis, which, is like, oh, it's kind of a throwaway episode. And it's just like, I think that one was, and regarded, there's a lot of Beavis and Butthead in there too, but I think it definitely, I don't know. That was one of my most fun discussions. Stop. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, Jesus, can we move this on, guys?
Gee whiz.
Move it. Yeah.
Just kept on and on.
You said on. You said bong.
Yeah, I mean, I have to ask you, Triv, because you started this with me. Did you expect the podcast to go this deep, or what were you expecting when we first started the first season? Did you have any inkling that we'd get into philosophy of life and death and Uranuses and stuff like that?
I think that it's always, I don't even know. I guess I've always been the kind that kind of takes it as it goes. If the discussion leads us somewhere deeper, great. If it stays surface level, that's cool too. I came in just as a fan, hoping to learn a little bit more about the series. And I mean, you guys have...
Instead, you learned a little bit more about us than you should have.
Hey, I got no problem with that. I mean, but isn't that what a podcast is? You learn just as much about the subject you're covering as you do about the people you do it with.
Well, hell, you go back to the first episode and actually watch that first episode. It's pretty rough, to be fairly honest.
Well,
even as a guy who's done like 2 podcasts and has learned a lot about podcasting since, you start to realize that it takes 36 episodes and a Jacob to get the podcast on track. And
don't give me that.
No,
but I mean, genuinely, you were stuck with my goofy ass, and I mean, I've done a little bit of live or semi-live stuff, but this is really my first time trying to do anything like this. So I mean, you were probably taking a chance on my stupid ass more than anything else.
It's okay. Sorry. Take chains.
I like our progression. We went from clean to super raunchy and R-rated, and now NC-17, not safe for anyone, even older adults type of podcast. But
now we'll accept that. I feel like I was definitely a contributing factor there.
Hey, but and the thing is, each one of us kind of brings our own unique bits to this. both, literal and figurative as
I
well.
bring my
But
bits every time.
he brings
Well,
his bits to the yard, and they're like, "It's better than yours." Damn right.
Well, it's funny because I the last two podcasts I did, people were afraid to say anything, of like foul language or raunchy because they were worried about their jobs and stuff like that, which is perfectly all right. But as long as you're not mentioning your job or where you work or anything like that, like we've mentioned where I worked before, and I had to edit it out just to be safe.
Right.
It is what it is. Like they don't give a shit. They don't care that we curse. Like that's what I do on a normal basis. I curse, and I always felt like trying to be clean, but it's just like the shit that we talk about and how natural it is. It makes it for a much easier, much more fun and entertaining podcast than having to have all these restrictions. And that also leads into like the Twilight Zone. Like I know about this all for a long time, even before we recorded. Rod Serling was always restricted to what he could do and what he could say, to the point where he was having arguments and like shouting matches with the studio, and then he finally just stopped giving a shit like near the end of the fifth season, as we see from like the Bewitching Pool. And I just like the first season, like you can tell that this guy has so much on his plate and what he wants to say, and you run through every episode, even with the stuff like the fever and was it Mighty Casey and the Big Tall Wish. They're not great episodes, but they have things to say, and they're really important to what he's doing. And
Absolutely.
that to me makes for a very important series. But like, when you think of the first season, do you think of it as like, an example of like the greatest of Twilight Zone, or what do you guys think? Like, do you think it gets better as we move along, or it's a weird first season because there's some classic episodes like Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, and then there's shit like The Fever. So I don't know what you guys feel.
I think to some extent you get that. There's always going to be that range with every season of every show, regardless of how good at a standard it is or how bad at a standard it is. But I do think that the Twilight Zone has so many unique ideas and so much, even the episodes that aren't great, like we've said it, even the episodes that aren't great, with exception of The Fever and maybe The Four of Us Are Dying, would still be like upper tier episodes for any other series.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not The Fever.
Well, no, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, mostly 95.
Mostly, yeah, 87.2%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
0.2
yeah.
is for the feet.
Yeah, I think that the show being an anthology series, it's I didn't really see a progression in quality. It was very kind of like peaks and valleys. But like, and I can't speak to, I mean, I remember some of the later episodes that come like after this, but I can only speak to episode or season 1 right now because that's what I've seen recently. But I think it started out, I mean, yeah, there were some early greats though. There were some early tough ones, but I didn't like some shows. You see a progression as it goes along because you get to know characters, the story unfolds and things like that. This one being an anthology series, everyone's different. It's new characters, new story, all that. So I can't say that I really saw a progression as that things got better. I think maybe next season, because I know that they shoot a lot of these. By the time they're shooting some of them, it's already out, and
Yeah.
And maybe it hadn't become a cultural phenomenon. By the time it did, they were probably already done shooting all of them or damn near close. They were definitely in production of some sort. So I don't know if they really had an opportunity to really like grow much more, because many of them were probably at least written and started production around the same time. I mean, I don't know for sure, but so I just think it was pretty solid from the beginning. I mean, yeah, there's some episodes that don't hold up as well, but you're also talking about a season with a whopping 36 episodes. They're not going to hit every one of them out of the park. And honestly, with the exception of 2, and really, I'm just going to say 1 for The Fever. The Fever was just really hard to get around all around. It was just like, this sucks, But even The Four of Us Are Dying had moments. It had things in it. I was like, okay. It just was a lot of missed opportunity and odd decisions with that one for me. That's what kind of shot it down to the number 35 for me. But even that one was still Twilight Zone. It was just lower level. The Fever is really the only one that stands out as like, this is what the fuck is this shit?
Do you
Maybe
think we're
for
looking
Jensen,
at it from
but-
a 2022 perspective instead of a 1959 perspective or 60? Do you think the Fever hit better back then than it would today?
I was say I mean I think that we look at all of them from that perspective, and we have, like I said, we've had to stop ourselves and be like, but how was it looked at then? How was this perceived? That one though, maybe some of the religious not beliefs, but like the convictions of like what it means to, and like the way that people looked at like gambling and stuff back then, which gambling has always been kind of a kind of a sinish thing. But especially in recent years, I don't think gambling is really looked at as harshly as it was in 1960, for sure. So maybe they viewed that, maybe it hit a little bit different, a little bit harder because of that. But I also don't think that back then they had, they thought if you gambled one, it was like it was a drug. You did it once and you were like an addict and you're going to end up selling your family and all that. So it wasn't a very realistic look. And I don't really think that they had like any Gamblers Anonymous things or anything like that. So
Yeah.
like nowadays there's things that can help people, but I don't think that's the only aspect of that episode I could see that them looking at it a little differently. Maybe people having a little bit of fear about it or something. But even then, I don't know how you could take that shit serious.
Well, and to some extent, I mean, and not to, I'm kind of on the fence about the whole like seeing gambling as a terrible thing. Like from a religious perspective, yes. But then you've got like the Rat Pack, you've got like classic Vegas, people flocked there in so many ways. And so many of the movies were based around that. I think if it was anything, it was more a case of if you had problems gambling, drinking, whatever, you didn't discuss it. You kept that shit to yourself. It's like if there was abuse in the household, you've worked it out yourself. You don't admit to those weaknesses.
That's the thing about the first season, or just the Twilight Zone in general, is usually you get series that deal with individuals, like Friends, for instance, deals with 6 individuals who are friends in the lives in New York. But the thing I started to notice, and the thing I never even thought about, is the Twilight Zone deals with what it is to be a human, what it is to live in a world where things never sometimes go like what you want it to do, or I should say how it plans. Because you look at even the worst episode of The Fever, and it deals with gambling addiction. It deals with, as much as we joke about it, it deals with like the nature of like what it is like to be addicted to something. And you can go to Time Enough at Last, what it's like to just be, somebody who's outside the norm. And I think that's why I like this series so much, because it takes the chance of just what it is to be a human being. And for better or worse, some of the best episodes show it in a very disturbing sense, and some of the worst show it in also a disturbing sense. And I know The Fever is terrible, but you have to look at it. I mean, you see it throughout the entire series, but the first season, I noticed it especially because it's so prevalent, and especially with Rod Serling being a progressive, leaning towards the left and stuff like that. He deals with a lot of stuff that is just very not cool about society.
Yeah,
I guess you could say.
Well, and he had to be so creative about it too. I mean,
you
see the same thing with Star Trek and other shows at the time, but you couldn't have a straightforward conversation about addiction or abuse or anything like that. You had to go at it. You had to be creative in the way that you went about it. And I think that, I mean, obviously Rod Serling did a lot of amazing things, and the other writers that worked on the first season did a lot of amazing things, but damn, the way he was able to take so much stuff and, I don't know, make allegories of it and still make it work in the ways that he could for most of these episodes. I mean, yeah, it's amazing.
Well, even The Fever, I mean, the episode sucked. It was bad execution, but what it was talking about was relevant. What it was talking about it was good. I mean, it was not good. It was good to talk about. It was very in line with the types of issues and things and societal issues that Twilight Zone so far has been talking about. It was very much in line with that. And I liked what it had to say. I liked the idea of, there's not really anything supernatural here. It's just all in this guy's head, and it's the fever. It's the addiction that's attacking. I like that. I just thought it was executed fucking terribly, but
yeah.
So the idea was there, the whole the seed of it, the good idea, I'm not going to say the good story, but the good idea was definitely there, and I mean, that's probably the best thing I could give that episode. That epic fall in the end.
Well, and there's other
Well-
episodes like that too that kind of follow that same feel. I mean, the core of the idea, there's been a couple like the Mighty Casey, or what was the other one? There was another one that had like a really solid nugget of a detail, and it kind of went weird. But was it the
Big
Chaser?
Tall Wish.
Big
The
Tall
Chasers-
Wish, yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah, I
Big
think it
Tall
was.
Wish.
I think it was Big Tall Wish. Yeah, like the nugget, like the heart of the episode was solid, but then it was just
I felt like they were
it took a few
trying too hard
missteps.
with Big Tall Wish.
yeah.
Is that okay to say? I
think
just felt
so.
like I felt like they were trying, because they went out of their way, and I don't mean in a bad way, to like, include people that weren't included in a lot of film and TV at that time, and they wanted to include them, and they wanted to have their story. It was almost like they were trying too hard. Not the actors so much, but just the show as a whole was like trying too much to make this happen, to do it. And I think that there was something there, but they just tried so hard that it kind of took away somehow. I don't know. I mean, I commend them on that, but
Well,
it wasn't
that's the
awful.
thing.
But it was.
That's the thing.
Number 27.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the thing about Big Tall Wish is dealing with issues that don't get talked about in the 60s and 59 and stuff like that. I mean, the 60s, weren't the 60s dealing with a lot of
Yeah, you had a lot of racial stuff, a lot
yeah.
of
So you didn't every time
It started, but it hadn't really picked up.
Yeah,
This
at this
was
point.
1960, probably shot in either early
59.
1960 or late 59. So I mean,
yeah.
these
Well, that's
things were
what-
not being, the movements had not started as of
Right.
yet.
we
Really,
we talked about it. I mean, as somebody looking on to the whole situation at hand, like that type of episode was not done in 59 and 60. It's because every time you see an African American on screen, it was always like in the role of, I don't know, a maid
Angel Mama or something like that.
or it was
Yeah.
comic relief, like super
Yeah.
scared comic relief type thing or whatever.
Yeah, so that's why I appreciate Rod Serling attempting, even if it was unsuccessful, attempting to add an actual storytelling element that doesn't get played very often. And I don't know if that was something that he felt empowered to do. I can't remember. It's been so long since we talked about the episode, but
It was something. I don't remember all the details about it because it has been a while, but I do remember that was they set out to tell a story from that perspective.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that was very much their intent, was to put a highlight on these performers that were, to show that, hey, they're just as good. They do wonderful things just like everybody else, that these people that we don't see very often. And I commend them for that. And once again, I didn't think Big Tall Wish was terrible, but like we said in that episode, something along the lines of the episode was just kind of missing something. And
Yep.
yeah, and
I
that
mean,
happens.
I feel like they were trying too hard.
That happens a lot of the Twilight Zone episodes where there's just something slightly off about the episode that just makes it.
Yeah.
And that might be a question too. What is, of all the episodes, and sorry not to put anybody on the spot, but like of all the, because there's been so many different things that could like just slightly tweak off an episode. Is there one thing that stands out amongst the Twilight Zone episodes that kind of is the reason that it doesn't quite work, you think?
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, I'll tell you right now, we go back to Time Enough at Last, which is considered a classic episode. And I talked about that. I remember fondly, or not fondly, but I remember vividly talking about how much that episode just, it bothers me because this guy is going to commit suicide. And it was just like, it didn't seem earned or deserved, or it didn't make any sense for this episode. It just, stuff like that bothered me. You just, when they add in things like that just for effect to make an episode more insane, I guess you can say, than it needs to be. It just, that kind of stuff is like, I get it, and I like Time Enough at Last, but it's the ending that sells that episode, not the story itself, which is really strange because you think about it, you really love that episode and just what it does, and I don't know.
I agree. I think it's all the episodes for the most part that have fallen short, or that we've had like I've had a major complaint about. I've always felt like they had something when they sat down to flesh this out, to write it or whatever. They had something good. They had this thing. I feel like that one was somebody just had the idea. What if there's somebody who like always wanted to read, and then the apocalypse happened? He had all the time to read in the world, but then his glasses broke. Oh man, that would suck. Let's build a story around that. Somewhere in there, I feel like they were having a hard time getting to that thing, whatever it was. Maybe it's not the ending, maybe it's somewhere else. But they had a hard time getting to that, and they try to like jury rig this story or force the story to get there, and that's why sometimes the rest of the story comes off as just kind of like and they don't really focus enough on, they're more eye on the prize, focused on getting to that thing that they want to do. And there's been some episodes that was before the ending, like there was a cool idea, but they didn't take the time to flesh out that idea. Or maybe in the sense, like Nick said, in that episode in particular, the suicide thing, it didn't work in that episode, but it could have worked. Like the idea of this guy, that could have worked, why he wanted to commit suicide, and it could have made sense. But they didn't sell it. They didn't take the time. And that's another thing, is 24 minutes. You got 24 minutes to tell the story.
Yeah.
And maybe some of the stories were a little bit too big for 24 minutes to really, could you tell the story in 24 minutes? Sure. Could you tell it in a compelling way that gets people on board and invested in the characters and their motivations? Maybe not. Sometimes you need a little bit extra time to really get people invested in that and believe why someone is going to do what they're doing. I think that happens more times than not. Sometimes things in the episodes, not necessarily the worst episodes, but when an episode has something that doesn't work, I have always felt like it was because they had these time constraints. They had to rush. They're like, hey, I want to tell this big story, but damn, I only got this amount of time. cut, snip, move along. And some things you just kind of got to look at and be like, well, they only got 24 minutes. That's why they did that. But in the case of something like that big of a thing, I feel like you do need to sell that if you're going to throw it out there, especially in that time period.
It's actually kind of ironic if you think about it, because they eventually went to an hour-long episodes, and people hated it so much that they're like, okay, fifth season, 30-minute episodes. So it's like,
well, most of them it works, I think. I mean, most of the episodes, it's that perfect amount of time, just that little snippet, a cool idea. I just feel like some of the ideas were too big for that, and maybe they should have more of those ideas in season 5 or season 4 when they went to hour long. Maybe they needed to have more of those big ideas that needed longer to flesh out. Instead, they had 24-minute ideas that they stretched out to an hour long. It's been so long since I've seen those, I can't remember. We'll find out in a year or two.
Yeah, exactly. I would even say something like, and People Are Alike All Over is a great episode, but like the payoff for that, it is so much bigger than what leads up to it. Like the story does. That's where, isn't that where
it's Roddy McDowell.
Yeah,
basically.
I
think when you asked for that, you ask that episode like every week. I'm like, it's Roddy McDowell. It's Roddy McDowell.
Oh yeah. You say that, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know that. I know what you mean. The Roman Toga Martians.
Exactly. Like it's a great episode, but it seems like they stretch things to get to that end place, and I think it could have maybe been told in less time, or it could have been fleshed out in different ways. I mean, we've talked about heavy and light up, like, heavy front ends or heavy back end episodes too. But yeah.
And I think we do see more. It's more common to see the idea. You can tell that the episode. It's more common to see it that, hey, when looking at this, I bet what it was is the person had a great ending in mind.
Yep.
They said, oh, what if they went to Mars? They found people, and it was all like, oh, cool. But then they were put in a cage. Oh no, And then they're like, okay, let's build something around that. So then you got the 23 minutes that lead up to that last minute. That's great. But how do we make this 23 minutes interesting? And sometimes they do it. Sometimes they didn't knock it out of the park. I do think that the best, most compelling episodes are the ones, while we'll talk about it in a little bit, I'm sure at some point, there is an episode that has a great ending that always sticks out in my mind. It's guilty of the rest of the episode thing. Some of the most compelling episodes are the ones that that don't give everything away right away. And that the cool idea is the entire episode, the story. It naturally grows and flows. It's not just the gotcha ending.
It doesn't suffer from M. Night Shyamalan syndrome.
Yeah. It's something that just happens. I mean, even Elegy, while it had that ending, there's this thing going on. Well, that's not an amazing episode. It's actually right almost smack dab in the middle of our ratings, but our rating for this series. But it had this compelling thing as it went. It's like, why are these people frozen? What's going on? Oh, there's one person who's not, it gave you a little something. It kept you invested.
It had a robot.
Degrees. Yeah, it had a robot. It had robots all over the place.
Well, that's actually something.
Robbott, or however you spelled him in that one episode.
Well, that's actually a question I have. That's playing off Triv's question. The one thing about this podcast that we've done is go deep, way deep into those cavities.
Balls deep. Yeah. And do you know why?
Into Uranus.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because Triv loves anal.
What?
Because anal.
Did I disavow that?
Nick,
it is always because anal.
You like anal.
Earlier, Nick said, we went all, X-ray or more, speaking what we wanted because we want to be free and we want to be, express ourselves and speak. The reason really is because I came on the show and he was like, "This is a pain in the ass to edit this motherfucker. Shut your mouth. Just stop speaking." I got tired of editing this motherfucker down, so just do it. Just go.
I try. Yeah.
I feel as if that's my contribution to the fifth dimension.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
Your contribution was to make me a better editor. Is that what you're saying?
Or just say, "Fuck it, I'm not editing this shit anymore." I don't blame you.
There are some things I do edit that I'm like, that probably get us like intro.
And we certainly don't want to take down your channel.
You guys have no idea. There are things that we talk about pre-recording and some recorded that I know for a fact you guys will you'll never hear.
Nope.
And you shouldn't.
Or you should, yeah. Okay, so the question I have is, so we talked about kind of like the different episodes that Triv was asking questions about. Is there an episode, and I'll start out, but is there an episode that you didn't expect to go as deep as it did? For instance, Nightmare as a Child. I never expected to go into certain topics like rape and pedophilia or as a child. It was crazy. I didn't expect it. I mean, it obviously it raised the episode up to number 5 in our list, but is there an episode that did that for you guys? I mean, it could be Nightmare as a Child. It could be something else that you kind of went in expecting not to even think about. And then all of a sudden it just like, we spent an hour and a half talking about one particular item of this episode, and it's fucking crazy. So is there that one episode for you?
Sorry, I'm just
I know
looking through them.
How about you, Trip?
Go ahead.
I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's been quite a few of those. Like I mentioned a little while ago, the conversations we've had on some of these things, I never would have thought going into the episode. I was like, well, this will be a short one, and we go places, and that's great. That's one of the best parts of. That's what I've really enjoyed about it. But the one that probably sticks out, and not just because it is more recent, but really the one that I just did not see how we're going to go much deeper with this is the last episode. Was it a World of His Own? Yeah, A World of His Own. I didn't expect us to go into some of the discussions about like the male-female dynamic and social structures and and how it could be, how some things were actually really dark, because that was a comedic. It had a comedic tone, or at least a jovial tone. That whole episode did, but we started talking about some pretty dark. This is actually pretty dark, and some of the places it goes are, and then how she's defying him. I was listening to it just today actually, and how he's like, she's defying him and doing this and that whole social structure. I didn't. Some of it I was like, oh yeah, I guess a little bit, but yeah, we talked about that quite a bit. I found that surprising.
Yeah. For myself, and this is because Mr. Beavis was an episode that in the weeks leading up to talking about it, Nick was like, oh, it's going to be bottom tier. There's no way it's going to be a long episode. And we went off on a lot of goofy ass tangents with Beavis and Butthead. And I said this before, but I was actually, it was sort of a little back of my head goal that I wanted to, try and get it higher. And I know that with Nick, you concede a little bit to, where it goes and stuff, but it was such a fun, like going in deeper and the qualities that made the qualities that made him like do his thing, and the endless positivity. And there are episodes that are quite similar to this within this first season, and to have it go in a positive direction instead of a negative of this first season, I think this is probably for me like up there as the most positive episode. And it actually made me appreciate this episode more because of our speaking and stuff, and kind of that boundless positivity and shit.
From that perspective, I would say the Mighty Casey as well. I fully expected, because I didn't remember anything about that episode, but just to hear, especially Nick talk about it leading up to it, like from episode, like, I don't know, 15 on.
Yeah.
Something would be mentioned about the Mighty Casey's coming up. And I'm like, damn, this episode must be like dog shit. I don't remember it at all. And we watched it. And yes, it's only at 31. But I think a lot of that was me and Triv. Because I know Nick still didn't love it, but he did. We were able to convince him, because I think he would have probably put it at 35 or 36.
No, I wouldn't have gone that. I would have gone like 30, right above 16 millimeter Shrine. We weren't too far off.
Oh
No.
yeah, you hate 60 millimeter Shrine too.
Yeah.
I have a personal vendetta against that one, but I mean that we got it up to 31. And I know it's not big, that's not huge, but I really was expecting this to be like number 42 or something. I mean, we hadn't even gotten there. Like we skipped some. I was like, man, this is gonna be like the worst episode. I'm not looking forward to this. Now I watched it and I was like, I mean, it's just a 1960s harmless comedy sitcom show, actually. But yeah, I was surprised we got there. I got that. But also, I know I'm talking a lot. I wish I had been here for Time Enough at Last, because I wasn't here for that one. I feel like that would have been one that would have, for me at least, we could have gone off on some tangents about some of the deeper things about that one. I remember listening to you guys's, but I don't remember specifically what all you guys said. That was a while back, but I think that one really would have opened up a lot of conversations. Just remembering back to that one, I think.
When you came on for the Lonely as I know, right? When you came on for the Lonely as a guest host, I think I told Triv after we recorded, I said, "Son of a bitch, we should have had Jacob on from the beginning." Perchance the Dream would have been like 35, but I think the series would have been really interesting. Me and Triv did a pretty nice job for those 11 episodes, but it's just like,
absolutely,
I'm like, damn.
Oh yeah. I mean, Nick, you're more professional at this than I am. I'm just kind of talking out of both sides of my face. So
I'm talking out of both sides of my ass. So you got one up on me.
Also good.
And my eyes are just like.
I am one step away from just bending over and Ace Venturing my ass all over the place. Excuse me.
I'd like to ask you a few questions.
I mean, if it wasn't so late and I really felt like getting up, I might hit the mic, but I'm always one step away from that. Just know.
Is that going to appear in Red Sonja?
Well, the better question is not if it'll appear, more when. Is am I wearing pants when it appears? That
is a good question.
Because you never know. All you see is right here. What's under? Shit got crazy. That's how it does here in the fifth dimension. We get fucking crazy.
So up our own asses, let's talk about our favorite and worst favorite episodes of the season. Who wants to start? Like, what do you think is the best and what do you think is the worst episode of the season? Not from the list, but just your personal.
This is all off the cuff, by the way, people.
Yes, it is.
No,
that's how we roll.
We planned this. I planned this.
Absolutely.
He planned it.
We planned it 3 seconds ago. So
yay.
It would be, even if we had planned it, I would have been just as unprepared. So don't listen to me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let ladies go first.
Oh, fuck you.
You think of me as a lady?
So my favorite episode, and this is, it's kind of going back, like it's the one that I always kind of go back to as far as what defines the Twilight Zone for me.
No, Jess Bell is not in the season, Trey.
Oh fuck. Well, no, that'd be the worst. So what is it? What is it called? It's a world of its own. For all of the things that you could say from a feminine perspective or female perspective, I do absolutely love this episode. The idea of, and I mean, we talked about it during the episode, but the idea of the process of writing fiction is so, your characters do take on a life of their own. And I think it's so inventive. And the fourth wall break at the end, it's that cherry on top of what is a very, very, very good Twilight Zone episode. So that's kind of my favorite. Least favorite, I don't know. I mean, I could say the fever. Let's see. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Long Live Walter Jameson. For as interesting as it is, I had no interest. I was watching. I can't tell you exactly why outside of the things that we talked about. I sat there looking at my watch the entire episode going, oh my God, this is the longest 24.257 minutes I've ever had. So
that one did lose it in the end, especially.
yeah.
I was with it, and then the last bit, I was like, what the fuck? For me, at least.
Yeah.
But this is about you, not me.
Oh, well, me and your ass, but that's another story. No, it's not that it's not an interesting. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it does. It's a story as old as time, as as far as the long-lived person. Exactly. It just didn't strike with me on so many levels, and I think it kind of plays into those old school ideas about how women, even though you have your PhD, fuck that, you're gonna be my wife and make me dinner and stuff. I don't know, some of that just, even though it's not a massive part of the episode, it still kind of gets me a bit. So yeah.
Well, I guess that means it's my turn. Well, we got this list, and our number one is The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. Great episode, iconic episode. I can say that I think it's a two-pronged answer because I can't do anything easy. When I think of season 1, the first episode that always comes to mind is not the best episode, and it's not my favorite, but it is my favorite ending. And I've mentioned it a few times, so those of you that, those two that listen to it every week are probably going to know what I'm going to say. And that would be, forgot the name of it, Third from the Sun. I thought had a fantastic ending. Like, that is one of, beyond the fourth wall breaking in the last episode, I thought Third from the Sun's ending was phenomenal. This is awesome. But as we discussed in that episode about that episode, I had to come to terms with the fact that they don't know math.
They don't do math.
Well, yeah, that, but also there's a couple episodes like that, by the way. But that and it had an amazing ending. I mean, I love that ending. That ending was so good, but everything that led up to it was just kind of fine. It wasn't bad. It was just kind of fine. Kind of goes back to what we were talking about a while ago. Had a great idea. We got to get there. The road there is not as fun. But to answer the question after that long-winded explanation, my favorite episode, I probably think after the next one that comes to mind, the one that sticks out the most to me would probably be the Purple Testament. And I think a lot of that is because through this season at least, I still think it has absolutely the best performances out of all. And not just like, a little bit better, like markedly better. Like the natural, real, legit performances. I felt like, and I mentioned this then, that Serling took like particular care with this because he not only was in the military, but he was stationed, I think, in a similar place that this took place, or the same place or something like that. But so I think this was a special, this meant something a little more to him. And he got performers who could they weren't kind of the traditional like stage performers doing TV more or less. These are actual actors, and he I don't think he directed it, but he moved them in the direction to actually give much more heartfelt performances. And that's what really stuck out to me about that one. Almost everybody in the episode did a great job, but the two main leads, they're the ones who really like sold the shit out of that one. And the story itself, while it definitely had that Twilight Zone side of things, it really focused on what it does to this person that is like to know, because he more or less knows when people are going to die, and they're the people under his reign. And I thought that was a really neat way of dissecting that. And I don't know, it just really resonated with me. I just thought that it was a really great episode all around. I mean, it never slowed down. It told its story. It wasn't too long. It wasn't too short. It was just right. And even the inevitability of the ending, you knew it was coming, but still when it did, there was this little part of you that was hoping maybe that won't, but then it did. So
you actually talked
fantastic episode.
Well, I was gonna say you talked me into making that higher than I was going to, because it's an episode that really kind of took me off guard too, because I wasn't thinking about, you don't think about episodes being impactful like that. But did you guys already name a worst episode?
She did. I didn't. I talk a lot. I know. I talk. I forgot. It's all good. That's what editing's for. That's what you're for. No. As far as my worst episode, I mean, the Fevers. That's a top contender for sure. But I'm going to try and not go with the Fever, because that's.
Well, let me actually ask you this: what would you consider like the most disappointing episode that you expected to really love? I mean, the Fever was always considered terrible by a lot of Twilight Zone fans. But is there an episode that you were expecting to love but ended up hating more than you should have, or more than you realized?
There was one that I was disappointed in. I'll let you think about it for a minute, Drew. I was gonna say that the one, and this one it's been a point of contention. The fucking Perchance to Dream, man. I can't. I hated that fucking episode.
To you, didn't we?
I hated it, and to every week sit here and look at that thing in the top 10, and it never got knocked out of the fucking top 10. It's at number 10. Just is like salt on the wound. I liked, much like the Fever, I like the idea. I like the idea of Perchance to Dream. I like the whole thing. Like the ending was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But by that point, I was like, fuck off episode. I hated everything else about it. I mean, I like the whole idea of this guy not being able to sleep and being afraid he's going to die and going into dreams and having that dreamlike world. I just hated the fucking dreamlike world. I just couldn't stand it. Something about that episode I didn't just dislike or was bored. I wanted to hurt it. I wanted to hit it. I didn't like it.
You know, it's
I can't
funny.
really give you much more than that. It was just, I hated the Catwoman. She wasn't a fucking Catwoman. She looked like Liz Taylor. She's just a woman with a bunch of fucking makeup on. But yeah, there's that one. But to answer your other question real quick, one that disappointed me was, and this is The Chaser. As soon as I started watching it, I was like, this is that fucking Tales from the Crypt episode I love so much. It's one of my favorite Tales from the Crypt episodes. Maybe not my favorite, but that is up there in my top 5 or 10. And I love Tales from the Crypt. So I was expecting, all of a sudden, what I expected out of that episode went up. And I was like, oh, this is cool to see the genesis of something I love. This is cool to see where that came from. But it ended on such a fucking nerfed the ending of that one was just like, what? That's what? Get the fuck out of here. So yeah, that disappointed me, because I was really expecting, I didn't expect it to go as dark, especially as gritty and violent as the Tales from the Crypt episode did. But I was expecting like the basic same thing, and that is just not what we got. It kind of ended on like a wah 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 wah, and I was like, get the fuck out of here. So yeah, that one was a little bit disappointing to me. But
you want to hear something crazy? Perchance to Dream was episode 9, and you popped up in episode 11. So you missed that episode by 2 days. I didn't think about it. And the funny thing is, I didn't ask when we decided to bring you on. I had asked Triv during Judgment Night, so it wasn't actually during Perchance to Dream. So you would have been on Judgment Night or Perchance to Dream if I had thought about it. So
that's okay.
It would not have been up that high.
Oh man, this is Jacob's villain origin story right here. Is Perchance to Dream.
That may actually be another reason I dislike it so much, because of course I went back and watched. I think I came on at what was the Lonely?
You came on when the sky was opened.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the Lonely was the first.
Yep.
Well,
yeah.
What is that?
Yeah,
11?
Lonely was episode 7, and then you came in on episode 11.
Okay, so there's 10 episodes I hadn't watched. So the little while that I was here, I was going back and here there where I could watching episodes. So I look at this one, and at the time it wasn't 10, it was up in like top 5, 6, 7, something. It was higher up, and I was like, okay, this could be a solid episode. Yeah, I'm gonna sit down. And I remember I was doing something. I was like, I'm gonna watch this. This is gonna be some good shit. What the fuck is this shit?
He actually almost quit the podcast when that happened.
I'm glad we didn't record that night. I would have come on as soon as we came and been like, fuck you.
Oh,
that's probably mostly my fault, so I apologize. If you want to kick my ass, it's okay.
Every time Perchance to Dream is talked about, Jacob screams.
Yeah. If you love it, you love it. I'm not here to judge.
I think
I'm judging. I fucking hated it.
No, understandable. I think it was probably the fact that, like, being that it was before the Fever and you actually had like sort of a depiction of suicide, like they went dark with that, and it was early enough on where I mean, I know for me personally, I wasn't like, I had forgotten a lot of the stuff that Twilight Zone did. And the fact that they took it to that extent. And again, I know it's an ending, it's not anywhere else. But the fact that they talked mental health, especially from a guy perspective, that's just not something that a lot of was done then, or that you saw in media.
What fucked me up on my
was the Catwoman. We know.
no, not even that. What screwed the pooch, what screwed me here was not Perchance to Dream being so high, because on my quest to get it lower, I couldn't because but also before I got here, it was placed one above One for the Angels.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I couldn't talk that one down without talking One for the Angels down, which is not a bad episode. So then I'm sitting here and I'm like, fuck, I need to get more episodes that are better than both of those. All of them are better than one of them, but I need to get some that are better than One for the Angels. And I couldn't. We kept having episodes that I were like, this is definitely better than Perchance to Dream, but not better than One for the Angels. So I've like, motherfucker, I needed to be here before both of those.
And One for the Angels is like number 3.
Yeah.
Like third episode.
Stuck that damn One for the Angels. Some of my anger bleeds over to it as well.
Oh,
I think Perchance to Dream was like number 2 at one point or something
was
like
it
that.
that high?
It was high.
No, it was number
Oh,
3 because
shit.
One for the Angels. Time it up.
That's what I thought. It was in the top 5 when I watched it.
That would
Or
make sense.
damn near it. Now, I mean, granted, when I came on for good, there were 11 episodes. I came on the 11th episode, so much smaller list.
And at that point, you had Where Is Everybody, the 16 millimeter Shrine, Judgment Night. You had some that were levels. So
I don't know. 16 millimeter Shrine was kind of boring, but still, damn, I hate that episode. I know I hate it more because it's like up there taunting
it taunts
me.
you. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, can't get rid of me.
Wow, that would be, if that's the voice that had come on, I would have kicked it down to like 35.
Yeah, it's like you just want to. It's like a little kid that won't shut the fuck up. You want to kick him out of the tree and be like, I don't know what happened.
You want to send him to the cornfield, don't you?
Yeah, dude. Send him to a cornfield where we look.
Tell us how you really feel. I hope this is cathartic.
Trey, what about you? What was the most disappointing episode for you?
So there are a couple that kind of hit me. Like when we got talking about Time Enough at Last, that one did actually, if it hadn't been for Burgess Meredith and that ending, I probably would have said, it deserves to be lower. But that one didn't hit me as hard as Allergy. I had never seen Allergy. And I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like a blockbuster movie. It gets hyped up and gets hyped up and gets hyped up. And then you watch it and it's like, it's okay. But then you're like, well, it's got some good stuff. And again, it's a case of the ending is what makes it so freaking awesome. And there's a lot of good stuff about it. But I just kind of looked at it and went, I was expecting this to be a new number 1 to knock everything out of the park. And I kind of went, and even more than you, Nick. I mean, online, like it is considered to be such a good movie or such a good episode. And it is,
Allergy?
it's okay. Yeah. Like everyone that I talked to was like, oh my God, Allergy. And it's just, it's fine.
Seriously?
But it's, yeah. But
You
it's
talk to
just
different
kind of, I don't know.
I don't know. Honestly, I'd heard you guys speak on it, and I kind of got like this kind of vibe from it. That
I like it. I was the one that was hyping it up because it's a guilty pleasure episode for me. I really like the concept.
I think
and
that's
the execution.
Yeah. You had said that a few times, like almost the way you prefaced it was almost like this isn't the greatest episode, but there's something about it like that I like. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I mean, I can deal with that.
No,
So
100%.
this isn't going to be top tier, but it's definitely not going to be bottom. And that's exactly where it ended, like literally right in the middle.
Yeah. And maybe it was in my own mind, like the way you talked about it, because I went in 100% blind to that episode. Like I didn't do any research on it. I just went in as was. And that was probably on me more than anything else. And it's not even that they're, but yeah, it's not even that they're bad episodes by any stretch. It's just, there's that when you look at, like we talked about before, when you need to look at something with a critical eye, it does take a different turn than what it would be just if you're a passive viewer.
Yeah.
So
that's how The Chaser was with me. I don't think it was a terrible episode. I just had I was disappointed in it, the ending specifically, because I had just a different view of it.
Right.
And I was like looking at it backwards in its evolution from like what that story became. And this is where it came from. And I was like, yeah.
As for me, the most surprising episode has to be the Purple Testament, just because I went in not really expecting much out of that episode, and It's actually really good. Nightmare as a Child is another one. They're right next to each other, but Nightmare as a Child is something I don't know if I was happy after watching the episode, but it is a pretty remarkable episode with what it was trying to do for the 1950s and 60s. So
Yeah.
No, those are good choices. And they
The most-
definitely had a lot of conversation.
exactly. Most disappointing episode is the Invaders. It's just a terrible
Motherfucker.
No, the most
Son of a
disappointing
bitch. Not there
episode.
yet.
The most
I
disappointing
read that.
episode.
Didn't you tell? I'm sorry to cut you off, but didn't you say
you're-
something like that? Was it last week or the week before, where somebody
Oh,
called it
Pace
that?
Magazine. Yeah, they
Oh,
listed
yeah,
it. I
yeah.
don't remember how far down the list it was, but
Fuck
it was
them.
pretty far down. It was actually, I think it was at the very end of that list.
They suck. All their credibility is lost. I don't know what credibility they had before.
Well, they are a magazine called Paste, so
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not.
they,
even
they
familiar
ate a
with
lot
it.
of paste when they were kids. Even the most disappointing episode, even though we have it at number 7, is Time Enough at Last. Now, the more and more I think about it, it just when I was talking to you, Triv, about it, just how much it really. I'm surprised it's still as high as it is, because it really is. It's an episode with probably one of the most singular endings of any series ever. It's like one of the most recognizable, but it's just an episode that's so depressing,
Yeah.
so dour, so just uncomfortable in its nature of just suicide in general can be played for laughs, I guess. But the way he was doing it, it was too much. Yes, you live in an apocalyptic world, but there's so much that you could be doing. And how a guy loses his glasses is how a guy is as smart as he is loses his glasses the way he does, and somehow he doesn't have an extra pair of glasses. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't wear glasses, so maybe I'm wrong on that.
I just realized I was
Well-
ranting on One for the Angels when that's actually under Time Enough at Last, not For Chance to Dream. So it's actually The Hitchhiker is the one that saved
Oh.
Chance to Dream, which is a good one too.
Don't you dare disrespect Nan Adams.
That's what I'm saying. I can't say nothing to her. She'll drift in here and kill my ass.
Basically, yeah.
Sorry, Nan.
You're as good as a purple testicle.
All right.
Take out my purple testicle.
But yeah, it's I don't know. Time Enough at Last. It's still a good episode. It's one that I would watch, but the more and more you think about it, I mean, it's like any of these episodes. The more and more you think about it, there's gonna be goods and bads that come out of it. Even
Oh, yeah.
Monster to Do on Maple Street. The fact that the aliens are like really weird looking and stuff like that, and I think they're wearing like jumpsuits or whatever from planes and
Fancy jumpsuits.
yeah, it's a little weird but I mean, it is 2022 and we have much better technology these days, even though
Do we though?
We have different technology.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, I'll
It
never
just
forget.
shows-
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I just random side thing like the Time Enough at Last. The fact that episode amongst all of these is used by Futurama in the whatever it is called, the scary door. Like
Does
they
he
say,
lose,
I know sign language, and then his hands fall off. And
His eyes fall out too at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't seen that episode, but this is funny as hell.
Oh, it's fucking hilarious. It's just and it's like a little like it's a smaller, it's kind of a cutaway to the TV, and you see that part of it. And that's really all you see. But it's such a, I don't know. It is like the epitome of what Twilight Zone is at that point in time.
Now here's something that Triv you brought up. Is there something you would change about this season? Is there something that you would?
just to screw with you,
I know
I'd
Jacob will
move.
say.
Just to screw with you, I'd move
I'm
16 millimeter shrine up to like number 7.
She has been calling that since the beginning.
Yeah, I know.
From the very
Just-
beginning at that.
That's when we end the series, when we finish out the series, that's gonna be Triv's last dying request. Move it up to number 7.
Absolutely. Above everything else, with exception of the Invaders, because I have mad respect.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yup.
I know Jacob's the first person I've ever heard that really loved that episode, and then that came out. Everybody came out in the woodwork and said that's like one of the greatest episodes ever. I'm like,
I have spoken.
apparently Jacob
Now
has the
listen.
power of the gods. I didn't know.
I have spoken,
Because-
so shall it be.
Yeah.
I've always
we
loved
have-
that episode.
Now the question remains: Will reach number 1? We'll see. We'll see.
Ooh.
But no,
I thought it was in season 1. Actually, when you asked me when you guys first started, and you said, "Hey, would you?" Actually, I remember when you asked me. It was when you were doing your. It was either right before or right after your 3-year anniversary, or you did a live stream. It was either for your anniversary or three. I don't think it was 3,000. I think it was your 3-year anniversary.
Yeah, 3-year, third year probably.
Yeah, and you showed your new intro and all that, because I remember telling you, "Hey, that's from HBO," and you're like, "Oh, I was hoping people get that vibe and all that." And you had mentioned, you either mentioned that you were going to be doing that Twilight Zone thing, I think, because you were on my podcast right before that. And that's when we talked about it. And you said, "I'm going to be doing this." And you asked me then, "Hey, would you want to come on sometime?" I was like, "Yeah." And around that time, you asked me which one. And I was thinking the Invaders was in season 1. I couldn't remember the name of it, though. And I thought The Lonely, I thought that was the Invaders.
Oh, no.
So I got to watch it. And I was like, yeah, I got to watch it. And I was like, that was not the episode I thought it was. But hey, it's all good. But yeah, I thought that was the Invaders. It wasn't until like halfway through the season I was like, "Oh shit, that's season 2."
Well, good news. You don't have to wait long. It was like 16 episodes or something. Actually, that is a long time. Now I think about it.
4 months roughly.
Right. I know what spot I've got reserved for it.
Yay.
Numbers.
How about you? Yeah, exactly. How about you, Nick?
What were we talking about?
If you could change a position of anyone. Oh, well, no, I guess Jake would. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, Nick, which episode would you change?
Well, something I changed from
the current list.
I don't know. I mean, it's pretty. I think about this. I mean, I'd probably put like Mirror Image higher or something like that, but there's not really. I mean, really? It's a pretty good list, so there's not really. The only thing I would change is like give us like less episodes. There's so many episodes in this first season. Like, it's amazing. Like, there's only 5 seasons, and I think there's like 160 episodes or 156. It's crazy to think about.
Where would you put Mirror Image? We're going somewhere.
I'd put it top 10.
Top 10. So you would at least put it in spot 10, right?
Oh my God! I can see what you're trying to do, you ass, you dork.
Hold on. I put Perchance to Dream at number 2. We'll put it at 0, so it can just never be like taken out.
I'm leaving.
You son of a bitch.
I actually thought about doing that, believe it or not, allowing each person to have an episode that they would move in a different spot. Like, where would they put it? And like, you'd put Perchance a Dream. Triv would put, the 60mm Shrine. I would put I don't know.
Would you move the Monsters Are Doing Maple Street up to like double, triple 1? That way it can never be.
Yeah, it's locked in the first place. Nobody can ever change it.
Triple 1 would be 111, by the way.
Yeah, true. Damn it. Shit.
I that sounds like an enticing idea, but at the end of the day, it would honestly, it probably devalued the list a little bit if we did that once a season. We switched 3 things around. God knows where this would go.
Oh man. See, mine is just purely driven by spite. So,
I mean, I do think that we should move for Chance to Dream, but beyond that one, I think that we should probably not do that anymore. We should definitely move it. And it would be a modest move, a very modest move. Put it like 30,
all the way down to the bottom.
30 places up or down, no big deal.
35.
It'd be 156 by the time we're done.
Probably be 172 just out of spite.
You ever let me get a hold of that editing program that list is in? I'm gonna change it and lock it.
There you go. But actually, Jacob, you brought up an interesting idea. Tell me why Perchance to Dream is like the greatest episode ever. Why you should watch it.
Fucking hell.
Triv, you and I are fine, but we're gonna make Jacob just do Perchance.
Oh, we're hazing. Okay. No, I am on board for this shit.
I'm gonna make you do it too, Triv. I'm just gonna sit back and watch.
Damn it.
Oh man, Perchance to fucking Dream. I think I blocked most of that out. Well, Perchance to Dream is quite possibly the best Twilight Zone episode ever made. Definitely in season 1, because it's really like it deals with some issues about like suicide and mental issues that you just didn't see back then. Like this guy, he's seeing cat people and stuff in his sleep, and he kills himself in the end, which I really, something else that the episode really did well was, honestly, I really related to this character, because by the end I wanted to fucking kill myself too. So it really projected that feeling out to me, the viewer. I was like, man, yes, they are really making me want to take my own life, having sat through this. It was only 24 minutes long, but man, it breezed by and just felt like it was 24 hours long. It was, I never want to go to a theme park again, and I really enjoy roller coasters, but now I'm going to see, Elizabeth Taylor every time I go somewhere.
You don't want a woman cackling at you while you go up a roller coaster hill.
No, I mean, prior to seeing this, I would have loved that. That would have sounded like a great Tuesday afternoon, but now I absolutely do, because this is the greatest episode ever made. It did. I mean, okay, the episode really, I liked what they were trying to say here. And I think that, there are aspects of it that they did a really good job showing this man's manic franticness of how he's like, how sleep, or sleep deprivation rather, can really just drive you to like these crazy places. If I remember correctly, the episode, it was always kind of up in the air whether there was some type of supernatural force possibly behind what's going on here. But I liked how in the end, it kind of, for me, it brought it all back home. It wasn't like a supernatural thing, I don't think. It was more of, this was just all in his sight, in his mind. I mean, he not having sleep for that long, because if you've ever gone for a long time without sleep, you know what it's like. You kind of almost start to see things and think things, and your mind goes crazy because it's just exhausted. And I think they portrayed that pretty good. I mean, he was having some crazy dumb dreams, and that's what happens when you are deprived of sleep. You dream of dumbass shit, and that's what he did for 24 minutes and fucking killed himself. So I can totally relate with that, and that is why that relatability to the main character is what really brought it home for me.
That was beautiful. You deserve an Oscar for that performance.
Yeah.
My invisible hat off to you, sir.
Yes, exactly.
Triv, your turn.
I don't even know which one. There's no episodes that I really hate. I mean, The Fever is what
Would you like me to
go? No. Pick one for me.
You got to give us which ones are the ones you hate.
I don't hate any of them. I mean,
give us a pool to choose
right.
from.
No, I understand. I get it. There's none that, I mean, there's none that stand out as, I mean, the Chaser was weak sauce. Long Live Walter Jameson was
Wasn't that the one you said you disliked the most out of?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
yeah,
Long Live Walter Jameson.
for fuck's sake, I don't remember much about it. I think for the time, I mean, the guy's name was Walter Jameson, which is a nice, strong, masculine name. He had a sexy ass ring. His handwriting was clearly beautiful, that he could pass on his wisdom to his class. He was dating a woman significantly younger than him, so I mean, pimp points are strong. Her taste in men was a little weird, but who am I to judge? I've dated my fair share of weird assholes. Yeah, exactly. He's experienced, and hopefully I'm not sure if he was more interested in the daughter or the dad, so that goes to show some early possibilities of some playing for both teams kind of a thing.
He's been around the block quite a few times. He's explored new things. I'm here to help.
Exactly. I mean, Photoshop they didn't have back then, and they managed to put him into a photo that looked semi-real. The furnishings of the house that they spent a lot of time at were tastefully appointed, and given the 1960s, I would have definitely enjoyed living in that house. The daughter could definitely cook a damn fine roast or whatever the hell they had for dinner, so that was a nice, that was a good thing. Could smell it through the TV. And I definitely wanted to eat because it felt like a fucking, it was another 24-hour cycle of things, and much
you wanted
like
to eat because you threw everything up because you're sick.
Basically, yeah. But it was from the good side of it, because I was just so projected by this movie. I had to projectile vomit to make it worth my time.
Bring it home.
Let's see.
We got Scrimshaw from Inner Space in this episode.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Wait,
also
That's a-
good.
Definitely
That's
a
also
plus.
good.
His henchman was Mr. Igo, who had a certain appendage that could possibly
mhm.
vibrate people.
Well, that is that's true. That's very true too. And I do enjoy a good vibrating appendage. Uh,
Wands.
you
Wonderful
know,
wands.
Mr. Jameson was easy to clean up at the end because he turned to dust. So, he disposed of himself in a way that made me very happy.
Shooting dust.
Yeah, that's why along with Walter Jameson is an episode worthy to be at number 30.
But but how did it make you feel?
Oh, just so happy. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Just get you all
I
sideways.
think I'm broken. Can't move.
He's
There,
now gone from suck to blow.
Yeah.
Basically. Well, so did he.
Yeah.
I would like to go from suck to blow just to get rid of all his ashes and leave no trace.
I know his partner, his friend there probably was like, man, this is an exciting time. We go down and
Yep, that's where the origin of cocaine, of snorting cocaine, came from. Was snorting Walter Jameson. In fact, that should have been the name, snorting Walter Jameson.
That's what their expression is. Long live Walter Jameson. As they go.
Exactly.
So now
Like
it's Nick's turn to tell us about his most hated episode, Nightmare as a Child, because he hates children.
Yes.
Oh man. So let me tell you about a little episode called The Fever. The Fever is very much about gambling,
Yes.
right? I used to be an addict of gambling. So I remember a time when I was at the Hard Rock Casino in Tampa, Florida, and I heard a certain sound. That sound was blackjack.
Ooh.
So I went and played blackjack and I lost a lot of the money. And then I had a cowbell. And I'm like, I have a fever. And so I go up to my room and this gambling machine's up there and it's just talking to me. What was the name again?
Franklin.
Oh.
Franklin.
So Franklin was like, jump out the window. And I'm like, I don't want to. And he's like, jump out the window. I'm like, I don't want to. And he somehow grew arms, pushed me out the window. I fell, no joke, 2 feet. So therefore, The Fever is really relatable because it's my biography about my life as a gambler. So when I fell those 2 feet, the people outside were like, he's dead, but it's all right. Somebody will come pick him up. And that's why the episode The Fever is a very, very important episode to me, as well as to anyone who has a gambling addiction, because you might meet your own fate of 2 feet out the window while being attacked by a gambling machine.
And that's why we have it at 36, because like if this list was spherical, 36 would be right next to number 1.
Exactly.
If it was spherical. And I think our list is spherical.
Very much.
Right.
Sure.
The only one, huh? Jesus. The only number more, substantial than 36 would be 42, but that's for a different reason. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure at one point Fever will be 42. I'm sure.
Now, if I have anything to say about it.
Well, if we have 42
and we've listened.
Yes.
We hear you.
Yes. And we appreciate your story. And we know that Rod Serling wrote The Fever looking many, many years into the future and seeing that you were going to live that. So you, my friend, have a personal connection to Rod Serling.
Yes. Thank you for sharing.
Yes. This beautiful man.
In all joke, I was in places I haven't been touched in years. I haven't been touched here since I was in kindergarten, and
oh good Lord,
I just wanted to say I thank you and I appreciate it.
I mean, it is something special when Nick can touch you in that place.
You've brought things up that haven't been brought up in a long time,
like my lunch.
All right. So that was fun.
Lexicon. We need to talk about
Well, let me do this before we go into Lexicon.
Yeah, you crumb.
Is there anything else you want to talk about with the first season before we go into that next segment that Triff spoiled you?
Oh, piss off, you great bloody prude.
No,
Are you mocking me, you bastard? Come down here right now.
Actually, I would have to come up there.
True.
Or come over to the side. I don't know which.
It's kind of a combination, really.
I have no idea where I am.
Well, you're with Jeff. I mean, what else needs to be said?
That's all I need. Jeff.
Yeah.
You're in the perchance of our dreams.
Yeah.
Oh.
But is there anything you guys want to talk about in the first season before we go into the last segment? Yeah.
It's been my pleasure.
Me too. I'm with you.
You guys have made the first season so much fun. Like, truly, this has been like every time we get together to record, and I hope that the fun comes through in when people watch this, because genuinely it's just been so much fun with the two of you. You're both crazy assholes, and I love you. And I'm not drunk, I swear it. I'm not drunk.
Definitely
that 5-cent beer, man. It goes right to my head. And
he's drunk on Twiria power.
Oh shit, I'm stuck. Why are my eyebrows like that?
You're actually stuck?
Didn't know, not really.
Her eyebrows like this. Just like
I
Spock.
can't get. Why isn't she jumping? Come on. Okay, there we go. Sorry.
Oh, there.
She's so drunk she doesn't know where to. She's like, yes. So, anyways, anything else you want to talk about on the first season besides drunkenness?
I mean, I missed a trivia question about Bob Dylan randomly winning a Nobel Peace Prize for literature in 2016, and I was pretty pissed about that, but that's okay. Unrelated to the season.
I was like, what does it have to do with Twilight Zone?
Nothing. Nothing. You get nothing.
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 So stupid.
Stupid. It was like, we ain't found shit.
Yeah, we ain't found shit. I'm a as Trish said, I've enjoyed this season more. I always liked the Twilight Zone, but I've enjoyed going back and watching these because there's been quite a few of them, like they're vaguely familiar, but it was almost like a first time watch all around for me. And I've really enjoyed coming on and just talking about these things and exploring them deeper. Because like I've said a couple times already on this episode itself, is I find it crazy how sometimes we'll go with the simplest episode and just go down these rabbit holes of stuff. And it's not always just like haha funny things we're saying, but it's like legit. Like I really truly wonder, I would have loved, if nothing else, to have been able to sit down with Rod Serling and just some of the things that some of the conclusions or possible conclusions we've come to, and just say, was this a thing? Were you trying to say that? You can talk now. You know, I mean, I just, some of the things that we've come up with, I just really do wonder, were they really going for that, or was that just us digging, real deep and going deep on it and coming to that conclusion ourselves? But that's one of the greatest things about this show so far, is that it allows you to do that. There's a lot of nuance to it, a lot of places it could go. It leaves enough open doors that you can just like, there's so many things that you can take from each episode. And even if they weren't intended that way, I've got to think that the show, the episode, the structure of the entire series, that was intended at least somewhat to be able to, take multiple meanings from things.
Well,
or
that
maybe
shows.
I'm just looking into it too much. I don't know, but that's what I think.
I think it does transcend, and whether it was intentioned or not, the reason it survived, the reason that, even something goofy like the fact that it's still shown, in marathons on Sci-Fi or whatever channel, IFC, whichever one you want to choose. I think that does show the power that it has to endure. I mean, no other version of this series, whether you're talking the 80s version, the 90s version, the couple of that have come in the 2000s, none of them have come quite to the level of this. And you could say there's a lot of reasons for that, but it's just, it endures.
Well, those existing is a show of how great this show is.
Yeah.
Because in 2020 or 2019, whenever it was that came out, they made a new Twilight Zone show. And it was based on this show from the 60s. This little, very 1960s anthology series, and almost just with the exception of the 70s, I guess, every decade since then, I think, has had its version of the Twilight Zone. And I don't mean something, that's like the Twilight, like Black Mirror is very Twilight. No, like the Twilight Zone. They have had a Twilight Zone. They tried to get off the floor, and some of them are off the ground, and some of them have been good and had their good moments, but none of them have ever quite lived up to the OG Twilight Zone.
True.
From back then.
I mean, and think about show wise, like, and not to say, like, you could look at Doctor Who and say it's been kind of by and large on the air for the past 50 or 60 years, but and not
70.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't necessarily 100% say that about the Twilight Zone, but in some ways you can. Like, the spirit of it has endured. And look at all the pop culture stuff that you get from this. All of I mean, we talked about Futurama, and that's one tiny example, in the stories that it's helped shape.
I think you could walk into any restaurant anywhere in the world, pretty much, not just in the US, but in the world, and just start going do 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 do, and people immediately know. I mean, and it could be people that don't even know the Twilight Zone all that well, if at all, but everybody knows that song. I mean, there's parts of the Twilight Zone that are deeply ingrained in the lexicon of just humanity just across the board. It transcended borders, and I think that's really cool. I mean, there's more than just the song, but I mean, you gotta admit that's a pretty fucking iconic song or tune.
Well, it's up there with the greats. It's Psycho and Jaws, and it's a few notes, but it tells a story.
I mean, when people talk about something creepy, they might just be like do 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 do, and that's the fucking Twilight Zone.
Ironically, Twilight Zone created by the composer of Psycho.
Nice. Well, there you
Bernard
go.
Herrmann.
Man was good with, like, give him 4 notes and he'll change your world.
Good with strings, good with fiddling things.
See, the first season has taught me I don't know what I'm doing here. I was just looking for the can originally, so and then I realized I cry like Snoopy.
That's okay.
I asked Meg, who let you back in the house? I saw Baywatch. That thing was freaking rad. You're turning out to be a bigger buzzkill than Buzz Killington.
We're doing a Family Guy lexicon.
Oh yeah. My real lesson here is morning, assholes.
Good morning, asshole.
But no, in all honesty, the first season, what were we talking about?
I don't know.
Anything else you had to add on the?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting what you learn when you actually explore the ideas. That's what I've learned. Yeah, definitely.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And all because of you, Nick. All this is here because you started it.
You're lying.
You built this city.
Josh.
On rock and roll.
I will keep.
You built this city on Twilight Zone.
Exactly. This all started in your brain, and that is so incredibly cool, and I thank you.
I don't know if we should be happy about that.
Josh, I will come up there and bitch slap you.
Once again, you have to go down.
Jesus Christ. Jake, you're closer to him. Will you please drive down to Miami and beat the ever-loving shit out of him, please? For being such a dork.
Visit me. I live alone in a van down by the river. I don't care if you can down the ocean.
I will take your mother out to dinner and not call her the next day.
That needs to be on my line.
What? I'm not allowed to do that?
Well, speaking of things of lexicon, let's talk about the lexicon. This is Jacob's contribution to the series is the lexicons.
It's pretty great.
What is the best lexicon? Yes, what is the best lexicon word that we've had so far? I don't even remember.
More phrases than words, but yeah,
phrases.
I mean, there's a few that stand out to me. I guess we should probably go through them. I don't know if you're going to want to put them on the screen or not, but I can go through them. So yeah, Trivid requested the other night when we were talking about this to put these to a narrative, just a challenge accepted, I suppose. I don't know if I'll be as successful at it this time. I don't remember what the hell I said the other night, but I just started saying them and decided to give it a little story. So in the vein of Twilight Zone, I suppose. I do not remember where I started, so I need a starting point. Somebody give me a starting point. Where does our scene open?
Stop fighting
in a psychologist in a therapist office on like the 98th floor of a building. The guy is having terrible dreams about a cat woman.
Oh, fuck you. Okay.
No. I'll give you something different.
Okay, give me something good.
I was gonna say, you believe you have 4 different identities and you're walking under a bunch of neon signs.
Come on.
Okay. You're standing in the middle of a desert and you're holding a potato.
You just had sex with a robot.
There you go.
Scene opens, man, middle of desert, potato. I was hoping for a little bit more than that, but okay.
You're wearing plaid pants and patent leather shoes, and you just had sex with the robot, and you just had to shoot her in the head because you couldn't take her with you.
Desert with potato sex.
Your best friend is a gambling machine.
Well, we're adding too much here. Okay. I feel like one of those rap battle things where the people walk up and they're like, yeah, give me a starting point. And then they start like rapping about all the stuff that people are wearing and stuff. And they're like really good at that. I'm not. So let's see what I can do here. Okay. So we open to a man in the desert with his potato. What is this potato, you may ask? Well, if you ask that of this potato, you might just get an answer like, shut the fuck up or I'll sock you in the puss. That may seem like an odd response from a potato, but you know, it's better than just being called a crumb bum. So we have this man with his potato, and unbeknownst to us, he's just had sexual intercourse with a robot. And this intercourse made him want to jump to the moon. And after that, the robot looked at him and said, hey, why are you fingering me? And he said, it's okay. You just got the dirty end of the stick. And this sent the robot into a crying fit, room full of buckets. I don't know what the fuck that means. But as far as the man, it was quite possibly the best sex he had ever had that wasn't with his friend the potato. But this sex with this robot made him have shoulders like pudding. But his potato was quite jealous of the sex that he had with the robot because this was sex that was exclusive to he and the potato before this robot bitch came along. And the potato decided to tell the man, to the devil with you. One of those. Devils, you're going somewhere. It's a bad thing. What that means to us in 2022, who knows? But back then, that was like saying, fuck you, you son of a bitch. I want nothing else to do with you. The potato left. The man was distraught. He started to realize that he was born under a weak zodiac. And as time went on, and he ate himself into a stupor because his beloved potato had gone and he had blown a gigantic load into his robot's face and killed it. He sat around and ate ice cream. His ass got so fat that everyone just called him Old Lead Bottom. Who everyone is, I don't know because he's all alone in this desert, but someone for sure, if they had seen him and as fat as his ass had gotten, they would have called him Old Lead Bottom. Perhaps they would have said, you're just a lousy dog-faced line officer. He was a line officer, in fact, before he was on this mysterious desert that's on an asteroid with no atmosphere, by the way. What is a line officer, you may ask? Well, I don't know, but I hear that when they're not in use, turn off the juice. What that means, I don't know. Whoever came up with that surely had a leak in her attic. But on with this man in the desert. Big, fat ass, old lead bottom. His potato abandoned him. His robot destroyed face from the load he did all over her. Running out of things to say. But I lost my place, but it's okay because we're going to continue on with this story. This lousy dog-faced line officer that when not in use, you got to turn off the juice, and has a leak in his attic and possibly her attic since 2022. So we're not judging and we're not assuming either. Got scared fighting rabbits. Once again, you may ask me, what the fuck does that mean, Rod? And I'll say, chisel your way through a cheap trick. This is making less and less sense the further on we go. I understand, but I just can't stop writing. And if you continue to listen to this and watch this episode, I promise it will make sense and it'll make me happy. And I'll do a jig for you, Pappy, like a puppet. But you'll probably just hate this episode and put it at number 37 or quite possibly 42 and beat the difference in between right and wrong with a wet rope. Kind of like in that James Bond movie. Ooh, that hurt. Probably the most painful scene I've ever seen in a PG-13 movie. PG-13 doesn't even exist in the time that I'm writing this and alive, but I feel as if I was as prolific enough to see all these social issues moving forward. I see PG-13 being a thing too, probably around 1985, thereabout. Yes, I know that's about as interesting as yesterday's fish, but like I always tell my wife, push, push, push all the way, all the time, baby. Was I married? I don't know. Possibly, maybe. And right now I may be being a bit silly sophomore. I may be being a silly sophomoric clod. And after listening to all this, you're thinking to yourself, what the fuck? I'm getting pretty discombobulated, but it's okay. That may be because you're just six weeks in the rears, or maybe I'm 6 weeks in your rears. Who knows? I was very progressive. Who knows what I did in my spare time? I may have been in your rears for 6 weeks. You may have been in mine for 6 weeks. We don't judge here at the Twilight Zone. Honest to Pete, I tell you, we don't. But you know, here in the Twilight Zone, all these things I've just said, they may not make sense, but if you sit down on the fifth dimension and talk about it, I'm sure you'll find some deeper meaning to it all and talk for 3.5 hours. And someone may have to edit that down to about 1 hour and 10 minutes. So God knows what the hell they edited out of it. But all I got to say is that's just the way it is. That's the best I got. I think I did better last time. You know what? I'll live with it. I was expecting it, but I forgot about it honestly, so I hadn't given it any thought.
And you know what? I've come up with the new edition. When I edit this, I'm actually gonna take my dick and put it to a phone, and we're good.
Did I skip dictaphone?
Yep.
Did I skip Oh man!
I think you skip legs like rubber.
I skipped legs like rubber. Oh.
Well, you know what you can do?
Those
You
are
can finish it off by, this was the prelogue or the prologue. Now you have to just do a short little epilogue with those two.
The outro.
Well, no, I could say something like
closing.
And after this intensely difficult moment, Jacob had legs like rubber, but he was always ready to put his dick to phone.
Yes.
Here.
Yes, you pick up the slack.
In the Twilight Zone.
At the signpost up ahead. Next stop. Dick to phone.
Dick to phone.
Jacob's dick to phone.
Because anal.
Because anal.
Bastards. Oh
Shit.
god.
I told Trev that's like one of the best segments I've ever had. So well done, Jacob. That's funny. I laughed my
You
ass
did
off.
awesome. Yeah, for being on the spot with that, you did awesome, man.
Yeah, I got a little lost there. But if nothing else, I can ramble and I can just keep on talking about things. It may not make sense, and that sure as fuck didn't, but I can open my mouth and words will come out. That could be dangerous. And that is one reason we don't do this show live, ladies and gentlemen. We actually talked about that. What the fuck were we thinking? Hey, let's do it live. You know whose idea that was?
Fuck it. Aren't you glad I talked you down from that shit?
Nick doesn't know it, but because of this whole perchance to dream thing, I have made it my goal to get his channel demonetized and canceled. So that's why I went with the whole live thing. Because of you left perchance to dream that high. Shit's gotta go. We need to erase it from the internet.
Good luck with that.
Oh man. All right. Let's go ahead and head out. We've been talking for like 2 hours. 2 hours now. Only 30 minutes are actually useful. So
we've actually been talking longer than that. That's how long we've been recording.
Exactly. Anyways, so that'll do it. That's our kind of recap on the first season, as well as have a little bit of fun at Jacob's expense with the whole Lexicon thing. As we head into season 2, like I said, we got some really good episodes to talk about, especially early on. We definitely got their favorite episode, Jacob and Triv, and everybody else apparently's favorite episode coming up in a few weeks. But yeah, that'll do it. That'll be our first season recap of the Twilight Zone, the 1959-1960 series. I didn't come out right. 1959 to 1965. Anyways, the first season is 1959 to 1960. But with that said, Triv, when you're not drinking anal juice, I don't know. Where can they find their content?
What?
It's 2:30 in the morning.
Holy shit, man!
I've lost all train of thought. I've gone to plaid.
Old lead bottom here above me. Are you slightly discombobulated?
Yes.
You can take a flying leap over the moon.
All I can say is, I don't like Godfather. Insist upon itself. I'm the only one that knows that from Family Guy. Anyways, Triv, to put us
I feel
back
like I
on
just
track.
got the dirty end of the stick.
Yeah, no doubt. Dude, I
My
feel like
legs
I
are
was
like
born
rubber.
under a weak zodiac.
My legs are like rubber right now.
Oh no.
Well,
Uh,
we just sound like scared fighting rabbits.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first off, before we head into that, we also got some really good guest people coming on next season too. So
yes.
and we owe a thanks to the ones that came on this season. Jake, to start with, without any question, we had Alex Carson on and Rob Dodrill. We thank you guys so much for coming on and kicking ass and just being amazing people that you just made it so much fun, and we appreciate you on those episodes, and we look forward to having you guys on again soon, as well as all the other people that will eventually come on one way or the other. So anyway, so for my weird, dirty end of the stick content, you can find me here on at Trivial Theater here on YouTube. By the time this comes out, Looney Tunes Back in Action should be up, I think. So definitely stay tuned for that. I also just put up Troll as a collab. So yeah, definitely go check definitely check both of those out. You can also find me on Twitter at Trivial Theater. So
awesome.
I'm drunk.
That was
legs. Legs were like rubber.
Yeah.
Well, I had a dick in my phone, so that was my problem.
Was it 6 weeks in the rears?
It was 6 weeks in the rears. Honest to Pete, I could sit and spin.
Sometimes
I could. Well, you don't know what's below me. I mean, or above me. They've gone from suck to blow. That's why I have such a big smile.
It goes straight to the smile.
Well, yeah, duh.
Oh man.
Oh
you're
yeah.
You're like the blow up guy in Airplane.
Well, I kind of am. You suck at my belt, and I get a big old smile.
That's right. So, anyways, Jacob, when you're not snorting Walter Jameson's dust, where can they find your content?
You can find me at Jacob Anders Reviews on YouTube's, which is where I spend most of my time and put most of my content. Those couple of you that do follow my channel that listen to this as well, thank you, by the way. I know that my content's been a little sparse here the past couple of weeks. That's because I'm working on something new, working on some new stuff that's coming. I will soon have a steady flow of content coming. Just getting the final episodes. The final things worked out on some new stuff I'm going to be doing. But I still do have content multiple times a week, necessarily every day. I recently released, what was that? Love, Death, and Robots, Volume 3. I was a little late to the party, but really, I like that show as a whole. Check that out. By the time this comes out, I'll have some other stuff because I honestly don't have any idea when is this next Monday? Oh, check out my Mad God review that just came out today. If it doesn't come out, Nick, cut this out.
The Mad God.
It should. It will be coming out that day. And also my review of Crimes of the Future. That review was something special, something to behold. That's for damn sure.
Oh, it was so beautiful. I cried, I laughed, I hurled.
Yeah.
I pushed all the way, all the time.
All the way.
All the way.
But if you want to go all the way and all the time, check me out on Twitter as well at Red Neville 2. I spend some time there. That is the quickest way to get a hold of me, DMs and stuff. I'll talk to pretty much anybody. I just want friends. But yeah, check out my channel over on YouTube. That's about it. Long-winded. That's what I'm known for. Go.
Yes. Let's go all the way, according to ICP. Anyways, you can find my content at Movie Emporium. That's where this video will be posted. Find our audio feeds, of course, on Anchor and iTunes and Google Play and Amazon Music. I keep saying rate, subscribe, because that's how people listen. The channel grows and grows and grows that way. But yeah, so it's been fun talking about the first season. Like I said, my content also on Movie Emporium YouTube. But with that said, next episode will be, of course, the first episode of the second season, which once again is King 9 Will Not Return. But with that said, we're heading out, and we'll see you guys next time in the Twilight Zone of the Fifth Dimension. Good job, guys.
See you in season 2.
Bye.
Please love chicken grease. So what you're saying is you're Porky Pig in it?
Oh shit!
Guys,
I lost it. Damn it! Hang on.
Lost what?
She's ready. She's ready for whatever you're presenting her.
I wish.
Shit.
Show us your O face. Oh.
Shit. That movie's 24 years old, I think, or 23
Don't
years
say
old.
it. Don't say it. I saw that in an empty movie theater when it first came out. It was the only person.
You were one of the 4 people who saw it in the theater.
Yeah. I went and saw it. I was like, that movie was great. Now they asked me, like, have you seen Office Space? And they're like, what? Nobody even knew it came out.